Assalamualaikum and greetings. I am Afrina, going to present the Malay validation of an instrument, namely Emotion Regulation Questionnaire for Children and Adolescents. Emotion Regulation Questionnaire for Children and Adolescents, ERQ-CA, is an instrument used to measure emotion regulation strategies in children and adolescents. It consists of 10 items with 2 skills that reflects the strategy used, which are cognitive reappraisal and expressive suppression. This instrument has been adapted in many countries such as China, United States, and Portugal. However, in Malaysia, the ERQ-CA hasn't been adapted in Malay, which is difficult for a researcher to conduct studies about emotion regulation among Malaysian adolescents. Therefore, the aim of this study is to adapt the Malay version of ERQ-CA, namely ERQ-CA-M, and examine its psychometric properties. We had 163 students from 2 schools in Kelang Valley, aged of 13 and 14 years old. We used 2 instruments in this study. The first one is the ERQ-CA-M with same number of items and skills. And we also has the Malay version of depression, anxiety, stress scale, and thus where we only use depression scale. In attempt of developing the ERQ-CA-M, we had 4 bilingual experts to do forward and backward translation, and also Malay proofreaders to modify the sentence structure. At the end, we had experts to choose items that has close meaning to the original instrument. In terms of data collection, we invited students to join us for Google Meeting session for a briefing, and then we forward them a link of questionnaire for them to complete. These are the overview of how the ERQ-CA-M looks like and the proposed model that we are going to test. Therefore, we conducted 2 types of analysis. The first one is the reliability, where we use combat alpha test to see the reliability of the instrument and also the internal cost sensitivity for each skill. And then for validity, in terms of construct, we perform confirmatory factors analysis to see whether our proposed model fit to our data. And then for the convergent validity, we conducted experimental tests to see whether the skills of ERQ-CA-M correlates with depression skills in DAS. These are the results that we found. Generally, the instrument shows the acceptable range of combat alpha value, which is more than 0.7. For each skills, the CR has also more than 0.7. For the ES scale, slightly lower, which is 0.6. Nevertheless, the character item total R suggests that all items has a value more than 0.7. In terms of construct validity, if you see at the right side, all of the items has a value of more than 0.4 of the factor loading. And for the GFI, CFI also has more than 0.9. However, for NFI, lower than 0.9. But for Ramsey, we have more than 0.1. In addition, in terms of convergent validity, okay, the CR skill negatively correlate with depression skills, okay, which suggests that high scores on CR, low scores in depression skills. And for the ES skills, positively correlate with depression skills, which indicates that high scores on suppression, high scores on depression scores. Therefore, what we can understand in terms of reliability of ERQ-CA-M, it has acceptable range of reliability. Although we found that the CR slightly lower compared to the previous results that conducted in Australian population. This difference might be because of different of emotion regulation strategies that are practiced in 2 different countries. And for the ES scale, also quite lower compared to the CR, might be because of smaller number of items. However, the combat alpha value in this study is comparable with previous study that has found the similar results. For the character item total R, the value shows that all the items correlate well with the skill, so none of the items should be eliminated. In terms of construct validity, the factor loadings has more than 0.4, which suggests that all the items are considered stable. And also the coefficient of model to show that ERQ-CA-M has 2 factor structure, also above the cutoff, which indicate good fit, except there is one below, slightly below of the cutoff. This suggests that the ERQ-CA-M is an adequate fit for 2 factor structure. And last one, the convergent validity of the ERQ-CAM. It shows that both of the skills correlates with depression skills, which is consistent with the previous study who found that the skills of ERQ-CA also correlates with depression skills. In conclusion, the ERQ-CAM is a reliable and valid instrument to measure emotion regulation strategies for those who age 13 and 14 years old. This study will help the future studies in Malaysia to have a better understanding about emotion regulations among Malaysian adolescents. Lastly, I hope that there will be a study to validate the instrument in adult children sample, and also conducted a test to see whether the ERQ-CAM is stable over the time. I think that's all for me. Thank you for listening.